Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here. So as I was having a shower today, I normally watch a YouTube video or a few of them while I'm shaving and getting ready. So I come across this gem. Well, it's not a gem, it actually quite annoyed me. But this video is called The Day Sherlock Died. Now, this is why I've called this video The Spoon-Fed Generation, because I am getting fed up with this mentality where writers are expected to, join the dots for the audience. And let's try and watch some of this video, and I'll interrupt it from time to time and tell you what I think.
Enjoyable, while for many others, they feel the show has fallen from grace, and there are many out there who would agree with the statement that BBC Sherlock is dead. In this video essay, I ask, why? Well, to answer that question, let's be a little scientific. In Season 2, Episode 2, the showrunners adapt the famous Hound of the Baskerville storyline with a great degree of creative liberty. However, many agree that this episode, the Hounds of Baskerville, is one of the show's best. In this episode, Sherlock is solving a decade-old mystery and trying to take down a murderer. On the other side of the argument is Episode 2 of Season 4, The Lying Detective. In this episode, Sherlock is trying to solve a mystery and take down a serial killer. On the surface, they seem like quite similar stories. However, the Baskervilles had a far warmer reception than the latter, and the reason is all to do with execution. Now, there are several reasons why the Baskervilles had a warmer reception than The Lying Detective. However, where a great number of people took issue with the Hounds of the Baskerville was one particular scene where John is locked up in a lab with drugs in his system, with a mutant dog, for it to be later revealed that there was no dog, and Sherlock was in fact just using John as a lab rat. The reason many took issue with this scene is because we were not shown the thought process of Sherlock until after the event. It is irritating for the viewer, as the show is supposed to be a detective story, and if we do not fully and totally understand the detective's thoughts, it feels cheap and disengaging for the viewer. Now,
right, let's stop it there for a moment. So we didn't know, the writer didn't tell us basically Sherlock's plan to use Watson in this way. But why do we need to know everything if that's in his fault? Because afterwards we find out what he was doing anyway. Why do we need to know? Because this is my issue. The YouTube generation, the spoon-fed generation, the over-analysis of everything we see, whether it's on film or TV, and they want to be spoon-fed. They want everything explained to them. But writers like Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss want you to use your mind. But the problem with this generation of viewer, they don't want to do that.
Now, that scene is irritating. However, it does not, like some critics have suggested, break the episode. Despite that writing blunder, that one episode, The Hounds of Baskerville, is still a good detective story, because that one moment is the only moment in the whole episode we don't understand Sherlock's thoughts, and for the rest of the whole episode, we, the audience, and Sherlock are all on the same page. For example, when the twist is revealed that the Hound was not a hound at all, but rather just a man, we realise that truth at the same moment Sherlock does. We are informed of Sherlock's theory that the sugar is laced with a drug, and when Sherlock realises his theory is wrong, we realise that alongside him. In short, the reason the climax of not just the Baskervilles but most of the early seasons was compelling was because if something was a surprise to the audience, it was also a surprise to Sherlock, which is a very basic rule when it comes to writing detective fiction. However, that is not the case.
No. We don't have to be at the same mindset as the character, so he can be one step ahead of us. That isn't a problem, right? And then we catch up. But if you're clever, let me tell you something about Arthur Conan Doyle, who created Sherlock Holmes, who created Watson. You know why those books and those stories were successful? Because the reader was able to use their minds. So if you're not clever enough to keep up, it isn't the writer's fault. But of course, this generation just don't understand that.
It's with Season 4, as in that respect, the episode's climax falls flat on its face. The second episode does a reasonably good job for the most part of showing the thought process of Sherlock. For example, he realises at one point the client never actually existed and that he had just hallucinated her coming to his flat. Now that's a fun twist, however when it comes to the climax, or more specifically, in the way in which Sherlock beats the main villain, the twist is far less enjoyable. It plays out very much like this. Culverton the villain sneaks into Sherlock's hospital room and tries to kill him. While trying to kill him, he confesses to being a murderer.
Dead people are my things. I like to make people into things.
Then John and a policeman burst in and stop Culverton in the act. Culverton says they have no proof of anything as it is just Sherlock's word against his, and it's at this point Sherlock reveals that there is a hidden recording device in John's walking stick, and using that recording, he exposes the villain for who he is and gets him arrested. Now there is one fundamental problem with that ending, and it is a similar problem to when we didn't know that Sherlock was testing a joke on John, except this example is far worse. The recording device Sherlock used to take down the main villain and resolve the whole plot was entirely unforeshadowed. There was no clue or hint or out-of-place dialogue that piqued the viewer's attention. This reveal of the existence of a recording device was a total surprise to the viewer. This right here is not just poor detective storytelling, this is, quite arguably, fully fledged Deus Ex Machina. And you can be sure that
this guy's got a very posh voice, he's really good at narrating, he's got a good YouTube channel. There's one problem. My issue with this guy is that he wants constant foreshadowing. He wants to be told about something. So if we're told that that's what's going on, what is the twist? No surprises. We just should be told everything. You know, Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss should get a spoon and go, there you are, there's the story. You know it before you even get a climax. So this guy is obsessed with foreshadowing. He wants to be told everything before it happens. And that is not good storytelling. And that is not the way I want to digest my storytelling or my writing.
If there is one genre where Deus Ex Machina is least welcome, that is in a detective story where the learning process and reveal of information is far more integral to the viewing experience than it is to any other genre. The entire resolution revolves around this Deus Ex Machina, which outside of an over-the-top comedy like Monty Python's Holy Grail, always makes for a weak and uncompelling ending. What really makes this an unforgivable use of the trope is that it would have been a very simple fix. What they could have done was have it so at one point Watson catches Sherlock fiddling with his walking stick, and then Watson asks him what he's doing, and Sherlock gets flustered and changes the subject. This would raise the viewer's suspicions as to what Sherlock was doing with the cane. And later on, when they leave the hospital, Sherlock...
Why do we have to know what he's going to do with the umbrella? Why do we need to know he's going to record him using a device in the umbrella? The point is, it's afterwards that we find out. We find out exactly at the right time to say, ah, that is the point. We don't have to be on point on what's going on before we need to know it. This guy is talking without logic because he wants to be spoon-fed. He wants to know about something before it happens. And for me, it just doesn't make sense.
Makes John take his stick, and John asks, why am I carrying this? And Sherlock just gives a vague, undefined answer. Whilst even if they added those moments, it would not have been flawless storytelling. It would have undoubtedly been better storytelling, because when the bug is revealed in John's cane, there is at least an amount of satisfaction as the audience realises the significance of the clues and that Sherlock had a bigger plan all along. But because there is no foreshadowing, this is not a satisfying ending. And this episode is not the only episode in Season 4 alone that ends with a reliance on Deus Ex Machina. The first episode also falls into this classic trap. The whole plot for the first episode is as follows. Mary used to be part of a mercenary group, but she got betrayed, and throughout this whole episode there is this constant mystery. Who was the one who betrayed the team? For a while it seems like Lady Smallwood is the culprit, but in the end, who was the villain all along? It was the receptionist. What felt like a move that would come from a farce, an over-the-top comedy that makes fun of the detective genre, where the tropes of the genre are made a mockery of. There is no hint at all that the receptionist was the villain. Before the big reveal, she only had 30 seconds of screen time.
Why does there have to be a hint? The whole point is it's a kind of whodunit. Who's behind this? We don't know. Us as an audience don't need clues to, to try and use our grey matter. You put it together. Of course there's clues in there, but this guy wants a picture drawn to him. Look, it's her. Oh yeah, it's her. So basically what today's audience want to do is being told something, right, and then pretend, be a bit like Inspector Gadget. Ooh, I knew that all along. Yeah, because literally the writer was bashing you over the head with so many clues. That's not what I want to see anyway.
In the whole episode, and all she does for those 30 seconds is small talk with Sherlock and how she's like an ice lolly. This is poor storytelling, and whilst it does not fit the...
Something else. You, mate, have got no right to decide what's poor storytelling. At the end of the day, your rules are not the rules of storytelling. What you say doesn't work for everything and doesn't work for all writers. At the end of the day, there would have been a lot of people who enjoyed this. There's some of us who like to work things out for ourselves. Now, I'm sorry about that, but that's the way it is.
Technical definition of Deus Ex Machina, it might as well be just that, because it is equally as compelling. Now, this reliance on Deus Ex Machina is not the only reason many feel the writing quality has slipped. There are many ways in which the show has compromised itself, and one is this. Sherlock has trivialized death. In fiction, death is sacred. When you kill off a character, it can achieve many different things. It can make the viewer burst out into tears or explode into rage. It can be an incredibly effective method at keeping the viewer invested in the series, such as Game of Thrones, where you truly feel no one is safe and anyone could die at any moment, which makes many moments nail-biting. It can be a beautiful way to end a story, as in many ways, death is finality incarnate. There is nothing more final.
Actually, mate, death in storytelling isn't always finality or final, however you want to put it. Sometimes death is just used to a means to an end. So he's talking. Later on he refers to obviously the Sherlock faking his death. By the way, the whole point was, what were we all doing to waiting for the next series to start? Trying to work out what happened. How did Sherlock do it? How did Sherlock make us think he jumped to his death and died, right? That was the whole thing. I saw videos about it. I saw YouTube videos about it. I saw Twitter posts about it. It was amazing. It captured our imagination and we were using our brains. So death can be used to so many different things. It doesn't have to be the finality, as this guy puts it.
Than the end of a life, and when pulled off right, death can be beautiful. Death is an incredibly powerful device that every story inherently has, but if the writers are not careful, it is a device that they can lose. And how has Sherlock lost the device of death? Because it has trivialized it. The second season's ending is all about Sherlock's death and ends with Sherlock committing suicide, except just before the credits, it's revealed that Sherlock didn't die at all. The show spends a great deal of time hinting and flirting with the idea that Moriarty will be resurrected from the grave, and after a huge amount of teasing, the show finally reveals that, no, Moriarty truly is dead. And then the show teases some more that actually he might still be alive. In the end of episode 2 of season 4, it ends with a flash of a gun in John's face, heavily implying that John was just killed. But in the next episode, it is revealed that apparently it was just a tranquilizer gun and John is actually fine. The show flirts with death constantly, whilst very rarely actually killing anyone of importance, and because of that, when a lead character is actually...
Well, actually, you can't kill off Sherlock and you can't kill off Watson. So sometimes when you've got two main characters you have no plan on killing off, sometimes you have them near to a death situation. That isn't an issue.
Actually killed, such as Mary was, it lands with an underwhelming flop, partially as by that point, death and resurrection has been so over-teased that it has become meaningless. And also a number of people in the audience are having the very justified theory that Mary's death doesn't matter because it's all probably just being faked and she'll come back in the next episode as fit as a fiddle. Death in fiction is sacred, and when you flirt with death routinely but never actually go through with it and decisively kill someone, death becomes meaningless. Part of the reason many love Game of Thrones is because it is the polar opposite of Sherlock in this respect. Main characters die all the time, and if they are killed, they stay dead. Well, usually. Now, death is only a small part of a show. It is only one small device at a writer's disposal, and to give credit where credit is due, Sherlock Season 4 is in many ways a greatly above-average season of television. It has many good moments. The editing is innovative and creative. Sometimes the dialogue has ice-cold wit and is all out.
Right, I think we'll leave it as there because I think that guy likes the sound of his own voice. But basically, he's one of these people in life who thinks he knows it all. So he talks about death. He talks about Mary's death in Sherlock. How many times has someone died, a character died on a show, and we've gone, I wonder if they're really dead. I wonder if they're coming back. A great example was Lionel Luthor in Smallville when he dies. I always was hoping, there was a place in my heart hoping that one day he could come back, and he did. He wasn't the same character, but he did come back. But the thing is, death doesn't have to be final. It's not the be-all and end-all, because sometimes we want hope that those characters could come back into a show. So sometimes we don't see a body. It's like a soap. If we don't see a body, we're thinking one day they could come back. A bit like Dee in Neighbours. So basically, right, the whole thing, what he's saying, is total rot. But the whole point of his video is you are not spoon-feeding all the answers before you give the answers. So basically, it's a mentality, as I say, with modern-day critics. Ooh, or a section of the modern-day audience. You never explain that to me, no. It is not the writer's job to explain everything to you. It's up to you to sit up and think about something. When I'm watching something, I don't need everything explaining to me. I want to fill in the blanks, like I did at the end of season 2 of Life on Mars when Sam jumps off. And I'm wondering if he's dead, if it, what's actually happened, right? So I didn't need everything. So they left it like a fill in the blanks thing. I like that kind of storytelling. But unfortunately, that kind of storytelling is dying because of the spoon-fed generation we have. And that's very sad.